currently it's not available. So we switch back to Excel. So the first thing you're going to do is you'll go to Tool. All right, then you'll go to Excel add-ins. Well, in Google Sheets, it means Google add-ons, but that's the same thing. You click here. All right, so there's something called Analysis Tool Pack. You are going to select this one. All right, that's how you're going to install data analysis. So after that, you can click Data, and the Data Analysis button is showed on your up right corner. All right, so that's the tool we are going to use for regression. All right, so let me first show you an example by using top 100 nonprofits datasets. So you can go to Blackboard under this week's material, and then you open with Google Sheets, save as an Excel. All right, so that's what you're gonna do to get the data set. Or you already stored in your computer, then you can just open it within Excel. All right, so suppose you've done all of this, then the next thing we're going to do is suppose we are going to look at the relationship between attitude and willingness. So we are going to use your attitude score to predict the willingness to donate. So we hypothesize there must be a positive relationship, right? So generally speaking, if you hold a more positive attitude towards a nonprofit organization, you are more likely or more willingly to give to that organization. But we don't know yet whether or not the relationship is significant or not, right? So what you're going to do is you click this button, and then you select regression, okay? So then it will ask you to input your Y range. Y basically means your dependent variable. Now here the dependent variable is the willingness, right? So we know it starts with D1 to D101 since we have 100 observations. All right, so what you can do is start with D1 to D101 because we are going. The first cell here, D1, includes the name of the variable. So we are going to hit labels. All right. So then you select your X, which is the attitude here, right? So that will be our C1 to C101. I'm going to use it as a capital. All right. So the confidence interval, you don't have to do nothing because there's 95% as our default setting. All right. So this is good. But remember, you need an output range, all right, which means where you want your result to be. Now, my recommendation would be far away from the original data sets because you don't want to mess up with the original data, right? So what I will do is I will just select somewhere here, for instance, like I1, all right? So I said I1 here, then you can also plot the line, or a figure basically shows you the relationship between these two variables, between attitudes and the willingness to donate. It depends on you, but generally we can also select this one, right? Or you can not select this one if you just prefer the table. All right, let's hit OK. All right, here gives you the results. All right, what we want to do here is, okay, we will check several things. The first thing is coefficients here. All right, I'm going to highlight this. So I'm going to highlight this as right in the yellow thing. So as I said, we are going to check three different things, right? So one is the coefficients. Second thing is p-value and R-square. Now let's look at the coefficients first. What does coefficients mean? Coefficients basically means one unit change in x will result in how many units change in y, right? So here, one unit change in x will result in 1.04 changes in y, right? So what does this mean? This is statistical language, right? We generally want to translate it into plain language. So what does this one unit change in x mean? Which means if you have a more positive attitude, you are more willing to donate. That's what this means, right? So one unit change in x is actually if you are more positive in attitude score increased by 1 scale point. 1 scale point. Because remember, we used the 0 to 100 scale for you to identify your attitude towards a nonprofit organization, right? So 1 scale point increase in your attitude score will increase your willingness to give by 1.03 or 4, right? If we take two decimals, scale points as well, right? So this is in plain language. It will says, okay, 1 scale point increase in your attitude score will increase your willingness to give by 1.04 scale points. Sorry, this is just the statistical language. But if you get into translate it into plain language, you are going to say more positive attitude leads to more willing to give to nonprofit organizations. All right, so this is how we interpret the coefficients, right? So if you are going to write it in an equation format, that will be willingness to donate. I'll just escape the donate. It equal to A plus BX as we state for. But that actually equals, so the first one is A, right? Or alpha. The alpha represents the coefficients of the constant. So this is negative 16.08. We will take 2 digits. And plus 1.04. X is your attitude. All right. So that's the equation you are going to use. Now, for that part is very similar to what we did with the Google Sheets, right? So we can use plotting a line, fitting a line, and use the series, and then you can get the same results. However, here we want to check the other things called the p-value, whether or not this is significant, right? So if this number is written as 2.122e minus 41, which means you have 0.0000 until 41.0, then you reach 2, right? So 2, 1, 2, 2, etc., right? So I hope you understand this number is less than 0.05. All right, this is not larger than like 1 or 2. All right, this is actually less than 0.05. All right, so this one is less than 0.05, which we identify as significant, statistically significant. All right, so if it's not, so suppose, all right, suppose this number is larger than that. I'll insert 2 lines here. All right. All right, suppose this number is larger, like say for instance 12222. All right, so which means this one is larger than 0.05, then this is not significant. Now, if it's not significant, we will generally say, okay, we are not interested in that. All right. So if it's not significant, we are not going to interpret this. All right, because there's simply no relationship between these two. That what means not significant relationship. So what currently we are only interested in the significant relationship, which is this one. All right, so this is a significant relationship, which means everything we said here. All right, 1 scale point increase in your attitude score will increase your willingness to give by 1.4 scale points. This is actually significant. This is actually a true relationship, right? Now, first coefficient, second p-value. Now let's take a look at the R-square. Now, as I previously mentioned, if your R-square is large, right, so generally means your model is a good fit to explain the variation in your dependent variable. Here meaning willingness to give. So which means your model can, in this case, can explain the variations in your Y very good, right? So it's almost like 84. So this is actually 84.46% of the total variation can be explained by your model. You only use the one independent variable, which is the attitude, and that explains almost 84.46% of the total variation in willingness. This is absolutely a very good model. All right, so that's how you're gonna put it in your results. So basically, what I want you to do is first check this coefficients. 1 unit change in x will result in how many units change in y, right? Then check to see if the relationship, regardless it's negative or positive, it doesn't matter, to see whether or not it's less than 0.05. All right, if it's less than 0.05, then we identify this statistically significant. Then you interpret the results. Say, okay, 1 scale point in your attitude score will increase your willingness to give by 1.04 scale points. And finally, you translate that into a plain language. Say, more positive attitude lead to more willingly to give, right? So that's the ordinary language, right? So if you have a regression table like this, and you can safely or confidently communicate with your stakeholders that we need to hold positive attitudes about donors. So if donors hold positive attitude towards our organization, they are more likely or more willingly to donate to our organization, right? That's how you're gonna do with run OLS in in Excel. Right? I hope this is helpful, and do let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I'm going to delete these two lines because we really don't need them. Right? All right, so that's the result part. Oh, by the way, the other thing, remember we fit in a line over here, right? So this is attitude, use attitude to predict the willingness, right? So as you can see, so this is a good fit line, all right? So generally it says attitudes can predict willingness quite well, right? So as you can see, they are almost like overlap each other, and with only like two here outliers, but in general, this is good. So this can also be read from the R-square, right? So 84.46% of the variation can be explained by our model, right? So which means it's a very good good model. I'm also going to delete this one, right? Because we really don't need it. The only thing we want to keep is our regression table here, and you write the results. All right. First, the statistical explanation. If the results is statistically significant, then translate it into a plain language, right? Let me know if you have